Thank you very much. Yes, I'm Árni Freyr. I'm a team lead and a front-end engineer here at Tempo. And yeah, this is a talk basically about also why we at Tempo decided to build our own UI kit and how we ended up doing it. So for those of you who are not with Tempo, we have been developing add-ons in the Jira ecosystem for many years. And I wanted to start off with asking, who knows what Jira is? Okay, the question should have been, who does not know what Jira is? Okay, almost everybody is familiar with it, and everybody loves it, right? Yes, well, and everybody loves time tracking, right? Because that's what Tempo is all about. But time tracking is not fun, but we try to make it as painless as possible. And we have these three add-ons in the past, Tempo Planner, Tempo Timesheets, and Tempo Budgets. These are our add-ons for Jira Server. And for a long time, Jira was only available on server, and then they started to move to the clouds. And of course, we wanted to do that as well. But way back when, we were only had these three products for Jira Server, and these products were all developed by different teams in isolation. And we didn't really put too much effort into building a unified look and feel across any of these products. So our customers even complained that they didn't feel like when they navigated from Tempo Planner to Tempo Timesheets that they were in related products. It just looked very different. So we wanted for a long time to do something about this. And finally, we got the opportunity to jump on that when in January 2016, we at Tempo started work on moving Tempo to the cloud. And this was a massive undertaking because we had to almost completely rewrite everything in our products. But for a front-end developer, this was really exciting because we could finally throw away all of this old technology that we didn't want to use anymore. So no more jQuery, no more Backbone, no more velocity templates or something like that. And instead, we could just implement our products in the technology which we loved, which was React. So this felt like Christmas in a sense. It was very enjoyable, yet equally stressful period because we had a pretty hard deadline on finishing this rewrite for Tempo to the clouds. And as the deadline grew nearer, more and more developers joined the project, and finally all developers at the company, both here in Iceland and in our office in Montreal, Canada, were working on this together. And you know, anytime you need the project to be finished quickly, you just throw more developers at it, and we will just in linear time, you know, more developers, we will then be faster, right? This was not really the case. There were many new faces that, you know, didn't align with us on what technologies to use or didn't know how to navigate the code base, and, you know, it was a very stressful period. So we kind of did not do enough knowledge sharing at this point in time. So what happened was that because we were moving so fast and new developers were joining this project on a weekly basis, there were many times where a developer would have to implement some feature which had a UI component like a button or an input or a popover or whatever, and this developer would just do whatever. He would use some framework to do it or some library he found on GitHub or just build it from scratch. So this is very bad engineering, and we're not too proud of this moment in time, but it was very stressful, as I said earlier. So we kind of felt like we had painted ourselves into a corner. So we sat down and said, we need one UI kit to use everywhere. And we decided to use Bootstrap, like every other developer in 2016. And the reason why this is kind of important in our journey towards finally building our own UI kit, because after we decided to use Bootstrap, we finally experienced how good it is to use one robust UI kit everywhere. Because we managed to move very fast, and all of our views and features had the same look and feel. And our developers also felt more confident when implementing new UI features, as many of them were not particularly good at writing CSS code, but Bootstrap did most of the CSS heavy lifting for them. So this was pretty good. Now, finally in 2017, early, we finished rewriting Tempo for the cloud. Everything was written in React and Redux and Bootstrap. And we immediately started experiencing problems with Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a very big dependency. At that time, it was really big. And the Bootstrap CSS just bleeds everywhere in the DOM. It just affects DOM elements that you wouldn't expect. But the biggest downside of using Bootstrap is that your application looks like a Bootstrap application, which isn't really nice. And our designers were not happy with that. So they said, we want to redesign Tempo a bit. And they built their own Tempo design language, which would cover designs and UX for all basic UI components we would ever need: buttons, inputs, form elements, popovers, dialogues, you name it. And this was kind of necessary for us to establish a clear visual identity for Tempo across all of our products. And then when the designers would design new features and functionality for Tempo, regardless of which product it was, they would use these components from their design language to build these features, to design these features. The idea was then that the front-end developers at the company would build our own UI kit full of components which followed the designs in the Tempo design language. And we were super excited to get started on this. So we could just build our own kit, throw out Bootstrap, and use it instead. And one important step in this process was forming the Tempo UI discipline, which is a group of all front-end developers at the company. And we can then, in this discipline, we can align on best practices, libraries, frameworks, and the overall direction for front-end development at the company. It's probably not important to do this for most companies, but for a company this size that was spread in multiple countries, it was an important step. And now we were finally ready to build our very own Tempo UI kit. But how do you really do that? We had never really done that before. And there are many important decisions to be made in the beginning, many things to get right. And a couple of them here. So one of the most important things is to work closely with the designers. So you have to gain access to their sketch files or Figma files or whatever they use, align with them on how the UI components should behave, and share their vision for what you want to be able to do with these components in the future. And then also you have to align on the requirements. Who will be the consumer of this kit? Will this only be used indoors for employees of the company, or will you make it open source at some point? What level of documentation is needed, or do you even need documentation? How complicated should the components in the UI kit be? Should you just have the simple ones, or simple UI components like buttons or popovers, or should you go for something more complex like a reusable reporting component of sorts or something like that? And finally, and the most important thing, is to align on the technology that you would use to build the kit. And here we at Tempo made a crucial mistake, which ended up costing us a lot of time and frustration. So we did not reach an alignment within this UI discipline. A majority of the people wanted to build the kit using React and style components, while a minority wanted to use raw CSS and JavaScript. The reason being that if the kit is written in just vanilla JavaScript and CSS, we don't restrict the consumer of the kit to be using React. So we made a very bad decision, where we chose to do some kind of a hybrid, where we had this one kit written in raw CSS and JavaScript, and then we had another React UI kit on top of that, and that was the one that we would then use in our products. This is another example of bad engineering at Tempo. And we have paid for this a lot. This caused a lot of frustration because every time a developer really wanted to do something new to the kit, he or she would have to first go to the vanilla kit, implement it there, and then go to the React kit, implement it there, and then finally use it and notice that something is broken, and then go back to the other kit. And it was just very frustrating, very bad. And after a few months of this, we just threw this away. And we only have one UI kit now, implemented fully in React and style components, and it's awesome. So, the technologies and tools we use to implement the Tempo UI kit, we use Storybook for interactive documentation. Jest for unit testing, we host it on Bitbucket, and use Bitbucket pipelines to when we merge to master, we build the storybook and we upload it to an S3 bucket, so it's available for all employees of Tempo to check it out and play around with it. And then we use, the most important library we use is styled components. So for those of you who are not familiar with it, it's an amazing library for React where it allows you to write CSS directly into your components in a very nice way, and it prevents your CSS code from bleeding outside of the component where it's being used. It's really good. I recommend it. Then we have some more tools such as Lerna for package management. And then when we commit our code, we use conventional commits to help with versioning our packages. So Lerna can detect, like, because of we're using conventional commits, it can detect if your commit would lead to a major version upgrade or a minor or a patch. It's really cool. And then Lerna can use these commits to automatically generate change logs for these packages. So it's really cool. We use Husky to lint these commit messages to be sure they are conventional. And last but not least, we use Prettier and Iceland. So I'm going to just show you a bit. Show you the kit a bit. Okay. So this is it. uikit.tempo.is. It's only available if you're on the company network. So we have very many components. Most of them are pretty basic. We have the buttons. These are our buttons. And we have also drop-downs and whatnot. So the components are, most of them are pretty basic, but many of them depend on other UI kit components. So for instance, we have something more complicated like a multi-picker. Let's take a look at that. So this is a multi-picker where it's a button that opens a popover, which has an input where you can search and use then Ægir, hey. Yes, just for you. Okay, and then apply it. And now you're wondering, hey, how does this code look? So you go to the docs and you can see the code. So yeah, some components have better documentation than others. Let's take a look at the date range picker. This is one of the more complicated ones. So these are here buttons which open a popover with 2 inputs, two date pickers. We have here pre-selected date ranges and yeah, animation and stuff. So also under notes, we can see the automatically generated change log. You can see what breaking stuff we have been doing here, bug fixes, blah, 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 breaking changes. It's really cool. And last but not least, we have the Tempo colors, very important. But yeah, anyways, we have around 30 packages here in the kit, and it's being very actively worked upon by many developers at the company. So yes, back to my slides. So here's an old video of tempo reports, and you can see that there are loads of components from the kit here. The drop-down, the checkboxes, the buttons, and there's the date range picker. And then when a new team in Canada started working on a new product called Tempo for Zendesk, they could just move so fast because most of these building blocks were already implemented and accessible, like the date range picker, and more. And you might not, yeah, there's. So yeah, that's about it. Some best practices, be mindful of which components should be part of your UI kit. So it's better to focus first on lightweight reusable components and don't add overly complicated components with too much business logic in there because it can be very difficult to maintain that. And encourage people to fix bugs in the kit, not do workarounds in your code. And it's also, this is my favorite one. So the API or the UI kit very carefully because this kit will be one of the most important APIs at your company. At least that's what has happened with us at Tempo. Very brief summary of the do's and don'ts. Work closely with designers, and yeah, make it visible in-house. What I showed you earlier, the demo, that is accessible to all employees. It has been one of the most important things we did. Don't do 2 UI kits like we did. So don't do it. Yeah. So I just wanted to end the talk a bit about talking about the benefits of building your own UI kit and what it has meant for us. So you will definitely move faster because you don't have to build all of these UI components again and again and again. You just have them in one place. And developers who are not that good at CSS, they feel more comfortable with using this UI kit. They just trust it. They don't have to worry about writing CSS, and they feel like they're more autonomous when building features. And of course, when you isolate most of your reusable UI components in your own UI kit, you can very easily evolve your look and feel as need be. And right now, as we're speaking, we are working on rebranding Tempo. We will have a new logo coming next month and new colors and new navigation, whatnot. And most of the work is happening inside our UI kit. And then we can just update the package dependencies in our products and get most of this new rebranding work for free. Well, it's actually more work than that, but still, the rebranding changes themselves are mostly only happening inside the kit. But the biggest benefit is having complete control over how your product should look and feel like, instead of being dependent upon some external UI kit, such as Bootstrap or whatever. So that has definitely been the biggest benefit of building our own UI kit. And thank you very much.